Good morning. I believe we have everyone present. Commissioner Soberoff is off video. If we could bring him back. There we go. Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, April 28th, 2020. It is 9:30 a.m. It is a special meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Good morning. I will now take roll. Commissioner Decker.
Here.
Commissioner Murphy Goldsmith. Absent. Commissioner Bonner.
Here.
Commissioner Figueroa Villa. Absent. Commissioner Soberoff.
Is that better? Here.
Thank you. We have the Chief of Police. We have the Inspector General.
Good morning.
Okay. And we have the City Attorney.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And we have a quorum. We have Commissioners Decker, Bonner, and Soberoff present.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. As we begin again today, we want to begin by expressing our thanks to all essential workers for their exceptional service to the City of Los Angeles. Today, our agenda consists of a presentation, one quarterly report, the Chief's report, general public comment, and closed session items. We will begin in one moment, but I want to remind the members of the public that they can participate in this meeting in one of the following ways, which are listed on the agenda. You can call in where you can listen to this meeting and not participate in public comment. The second option is to provide written public comment to the email address of policecommission@lapd.online. You can log into this forum, into the Zoom forum, and you can raise your hand at the appropriate time to make a public comment, or you can call into the phone number listed on the agenda, press *9 if you wish to speak on an agenda item. As we proceed through the agenda, I will announce the specific item we are addressing. You should also see it on the screen. The queue for public comment begins when the agenda item is called and not before. It will close at the conclusion of the discussion or questions on that item, and I will state public comment is closed. If you do not express your interest in speaking before public comment is closed, you will not be called upon. No late submission or the equivalent of cards in the live meetings will be taken. With that, Madam Secretary, please clear any queue that exists for comment, and we will move to the first agenda item. Agenda item 1A is a presentation by members of the Watts Gang Task Force. Commissioners, as you will recall, we were scheduled to have a commission meeting in Watts on March 16th. The meeting was going to be held at Nickerson Gardens and co-hosted by the Watts Gang Task Force, which holds its regular meetings on Mondays in the community. Thank you to all the members of the task force who worked in the planning of that event that took place over the course of many months. Both the task force, HACLA, community representatives, commission staff, and the mayor's office worked on that. And I believe also LAPD Southwest Division. Thank you all for your hard work. We were all very disappointed that that meeting had to be postponed. But I do want to thank all the members of the task force for their understanding and their agreement to the postponing of that meeting when the state and local stay-at-home orders were issued. But we do look forward to joining you in the near future. As soon as possible, we'd like to I'm going to ask the secretary to please ensure that all audio is muted until people are asked to speak, because there's great feedback on the line when we don't do that. In any case, we do look forward to rescheduling that meeting. In the meantime, please accept my thanks for coming and joining us today remotely, virtually, to tell us about the community, how things are going, the relationship with the department, the efforts you're making for the future, how the department and, more importantly, this commission can assist you. Again, thank you for coming. And so I would ask the members of the task force to begin their presentations. I'll turn the microphone over to you. Please state your name and your position in the organization as we proceed. Thank you very much. And I'm not sure who's going first.
Donnie going first.
Bonnie, whenever you're ready.
You ready?
Yes, sir, but if there's more than one microphone on in that room that you're in, it has to be turned off. Otherwise, we get the feedback of the meeting.
Okay, we're getting set up.
You can talk. You don't need it.
So, my name is Donnie. And we wanted to talk about the history of the Washington Task Force, how the Washington Task Force came about. 2005, we had a situation that took place inside our community. We had maybe
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Donnie.
Yeah.
But Donnie, before you get started, if I could ask, there may be other microphones on in that room. We may have lost him. I'm going to give them a minute to get reconnected, but there are multiple microphones on in that room, and so we get the feedback of the meeting.
Can you hear? She said yes. But we-
Yes, we can hear you. There we go.
okay.
Can you guys see Donnie?
So you hear me?
Trying.
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, so starting over again, talk a little bit about the Washington Task Force, how we existed. 2005, we had 7 homicides that took place in Nickerson Garden. And at that time, we couldn't understand why folks wasn't paying attention, why the councilman at that time was Janice Hine, why they wasn't listening to what was taking place. So we went out and we located Janice Hine, and Janet formed a meeting the following Monday, December 2005, and that's how the Washington Task Force was formed. And at that time, she came into the room on that Monday morning with law enforcement. And that was never the plan. The plan was to sit with her and have a conversation. But because Janet knew that we talked to her earlier about we didn't have a relationship with law enforcement, Janet thought that was the right time to bring law enforcement into the room. And it benefited from that day forward. Also, I was invited through Housing Authority to come to a meeting that they had when they was forming the CSP. And a bunch of community people like us came to the Independence Square, and we had law enforcement, we had community people, and then we had a lot of community folks did not want to go into that room when they seen law enforcement. They seen certain officers in there, and so I had to call a recess and pull everybody to the side of my community, and I said, look, we come too far. And right now, we need to try to build this relationship, and let's just hear them out. Let's see what they want to bring to the community, and let's see what we could do, because remember, we just lost 7 young men inside the community, and we got to find a solution. And so we came back into the room. Before you know it, we went a whole week with this meeting with law enforcement, community, and we built a relationship. And I thought it was the best relationship that you could find when it comes to relationship with law enforcement. I grew up in the community, never had a relationship with law enforcement. I grew up there over 50 years. And so the Washington Task Force made it up in our mind that we was gonna build this relationship, but we asked Janet also that we needed her to, if you're gonna have us to sit in the room and bring this relationship with law enforcement, that you're not gonna move the captain. Because a lot of time captains and officers, they get transferred for different positions and stuff like that. So she guaranteed us, long as we exist, we're gonna have a captain sitting there that be a part of the program. and it worked itself out. And right now, we have the best relationship. We communicate. I find myself texting officers that I first started this program with to make sure they're doing all right with their families with this corona that's taking place in our community. This is something huge to us. We never experienced nothing like this. Over in my community, I done already lost 2-3 friends to COVID-19. And so it's for real. And so because our relationship with law enforcement, we all working together to get our young people, our people in the community to understand that this is for real. And again, this program here, I would say there's a lot of folks will disagree, but until they see where we come from and grew up in the community and to have a relationship like this, we could show them a way to make it better in their community when it comes to law enforcement. Because one thing about it, we all out here to do one thing, is that's save our young people, make sure the senior citizens is safe. They could be able to walk around, walk to grocery stores, and do the things that they don't have to worry about being harmed or hurt. And so I just love being a part of the Watch Game Task Force and continue to build a relationship with law enforcement. I then traveled around in different parts of the city, even when Field Team Readers was around as captain, and we went out and we did a lot of impact sessions and a lot of community events where we talked about this relationship and what it does for a community. And when these officers came into our community, they came in ready to work. They came in ready to build a relationship. And that's what made it the best program it is, because I remember when we first started the Watch Bears, we haven't had football in our community over 20-something years. And when Zeke and them decided that they wanted to create this football team, it was rough, it was tough. A lot of the parents, the dads, did not want their kids involved. I remember seeing a kid one day standing in front of the gym. He was standing up to the police car, but the kid wasn't no more than 5 years old. And his dad went off on him so bad. And so I pulled the dad to the side and I said, well, I just want to say this to you, my man. I don't know how you feel about it, but you just took whatever thought that your kid might have had thinking about growing up to be, you just took that away from it. And I said, it wasn't fair the way you did that, baby, in front of this officer, and then in front of yourself. And maybe 2 months later, after we worked with this young man, talked to this guy, he wound up signing his son up with the Watch Bears, and it grew. And relationship got real good in our community. And we, you know, is there still hiccups? Yes. You're going to continue to always have little small problems, but I don't see big problems that we used to have. And major work is being done in our community. And these officers build relationship with these kids, these families. I followed the Watch Bears to every game. And I remember not having fans on the other side, which is our kids' side, and all of a sudden it built up. So I'm really excited about this program, and thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to come on and talk about our community. And right now with this COVID-19, it's totally different. We never experienced nothing like this inside our community, and to see some loved ones that I grew up with. I have a co-worker that passed away, 37 years old. He died to the Corona-19, and so again, we just, whatever solution, whatever we all could do, we all have to work closely together to deal with this element. And one thing I love about Watch, not just Watch, because we could shine throughout all other communities, we all got to do this together. We all got to work this together when it comes to this COVID-19.
Thank you, sir. I very much appreciate your comments this morning. I understand there was to be a second presentation as well. Was Deborah Riddle going to present?
No, it's no other presentation.
Oh, okay. Very, very good. Commissioners, let me open it up for questions, but if you don't mind, I do have one. I know the Watts Gang Task Force met regularly and shared information with the community. And now with the stay-at-home orders, I'm wondering, how are you disseminating information to the community? And that information was always so vital to keeping the doors of communication open. How is that going, and how, if at all, can we assist in facilitating communications during this time?
Well, it's going well. We continue to have phone talks together with each other, myself and a lot of the other board, with law enforcement, with folks from the mayor's office. We continue to get literature, paperwork we passing out inside the community. We still kind of having little small pocket areas where people still want to hang out and stand around. So we did a big conference call yesterday, law enforcement, Lieutenant Brooks, the captain, and a lot of us in the community. And we're gonna find another way to deal even with that. And because we are getting feedback from some of the residents, it's kind of, nervous about the fact that they are staying home. They are keeping their kids in the house. But then when they step out the house to go to the store, to go to other places, and then it's a lot of people hanging out in their parking lots and hanging around their units. So them are the things we're working on. We continue to feed, raising a little money. We went to Food for Less inside of the community, and Food for Less stepped up. We've been, every Friday, we've been passing out 4 bags of food, chicken, fish, and really taking care of the seniors and the families, and the WCC, which is our boxing program. They've been on point, helping raising food from Hackler. And so we continue to go out and work together and work closely together and show the community that it's unity. When they see us side by side, they know that we mean what we say about what's taking place in the community.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions? Mr. Sobroff? Madam Secretary, could you unmute his mic, please?
There we go. My first question is, I've been to a number of Watts Bears games, and they've never lost one when I've been there. I wonder how they doing? What's their record lately? They're getting a lot of attention. They're getting awful good. And the second thing is, one time I bought a T-shirt when I was there, and I've never been offered double for a T-shirt that I bought, but I could have sold it 50 times. Everybody wants one. So I'm interested in a little bit of an update on the Watts Bears. I also want to give a shout out to Sweet Alice Harris, who's been in the community working there for 60 years, acknowledged by president after president. Yeah, Watts Bears update.
Well, Watts Bears update, I remember just like you, when the Watts Bears first started, we didn't win a game. We couldn't win a game. But remember, they just now starting. You had a law enforcement putting it together. But last year, and they are not the Watts Bears no more. They are called the Watts Rams. The Rams adopted our team, and they won it last year, all the way to the championship, and won it. They won it all.
Yes.
Yeah, so the Bears is doing great, and the shirt, they say the shirt is worth a lot of money. I'm proud of that young team. I'm proud of the law enforcement. Them guys did not give up, especially when the kids was losing. We wasn't getting fans in the stands. now it's hard to look over on the other side and find a seat. And so I
Wonderful.
got a chance to go with the team when they was adopted by the Rams. They brought us to the camp, and man, just to see the light and the glow in them kids' eyes. And I tell you, that day, that team made up their mind that they was going all the way, and they went all the way and won it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you for what you're doing.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Bonner, any questions?
Yes, good morning. Thanks for joining us today. I was pleased that you had mentioned that people in the community were getting access to food and things of that nature. Can you comment on what you're seeing relative to access to things like healthcare, mental health services, any drug treatment, any issues with the homeschooling, things of that nature?
Well, what I do know, I noticed a lot inside the community, kids is staying home. Normally inside the community like that big as it is, you normally see a lot of kids running around. I'm not seeing that. So that means the parents is paying attention to what's taking place. Now, for as the health plan, anything like that, I'm not aware any of the parents' situation when it comes to that, but I do know for as testing, I think it should be opened up to the community. I think everyone in the community should be allowed to test. I do know, again, we have 3 to 4 people from my community has been have Corona-19, and so some of the units that we get, because I work for Hackler, we'll get it on a building. They'll tell us what building not to go to, or what building not to go in, and different things like that. But we definitely know it's in the community. I would love to see testing taking place in these communities. I just don't see that.
Thank you. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about, you mentioned a couple of times what is true, that nobody has seen anything like this, pandemic and the stay-at-home requirements. And so I think there's a lot of value in trying to also look a little bit forward and understanding how the community that, what some of the communities being most impacted can get additional help in coming out on the other side of the pandemic. So the city, for example, has had programs to afford relief for those who can't pay rent and things of that nature. Have you started to think about or hear any conversation about any additional programs that we can start to look at that would help to minimize the interaction or the need for interaction with law enforcement and the judicial system, things like adult diversion programs or anything like that we can be starting to think about to help make sure that you just don't have, an escalation during or after the pandemic.
Well, I do know we get a lot. We do have on Tuesday and Fridays, we do have conference call with folks from the mayor's office talking about different programs. I'm also a part of the rec center where, a lot of those centers was closed down due to this coronavirus. But the task force going out and got grants to try to do things to help inside the community for us, again, providing food, providing any kind of assistance that we can help with transportation or different things like that. We are working closely with law enforcement. They bringing in things that they can bring in to assist inside our community. But yes, we definitely gonna need more. We are praying that we all get through this situation but being prepared for the next time we ever have a situation like this, because I just think we just not prepared. Folks don't have a clue. But now our community is starting to understand that this is for real. They are starting to get scared. They are starting to be nervous. I remember when the mayor first started saying they wanted everybody to wear masks. They wanted, you couldn't go out to stores unless you had masks on. So few of my members from the board of the Watch Game Task Force, we felt like, okay, well now this is a chance that we need to start going to the stores in our community and start letting the folks know at the store that now people are fit to start coming into your stores with masks, no matter what color they is. So we kind of ensured them that not to panic, not to get nervous, because folks think that's an opportunity for folks to come in and do wrong. And so we have a real nice community relationship with the guys, with what's taking place in the community, and even with the stores. They are allowing people to come in. They got the distances working. And so we got people working together to try to get through this together.
But by the way, you're obviously practicing the protocols with the mask. Are you finding that any trouble people are having with getting access to masks to protect themselves or to protect others?
Well, all the stores around in the community is now selling the masks. So also, which is our staff over at Nickerson, we had extra masks that we was giving out to individuals that we seeing that didn't have the masks, especially if we walk up to groups. We'll try to provide masks for them and explain to them about this coronavirus. And so I think we are starting to get masses like that. But the biggest thing that folks talk about is that testing. And I just think in them kind of communities, just Nickerson alone, we have 1,056 units. So you can imagine how many folks are living inside that community. And that's just like being in one little building. We definitely need to have them tested. And I know the mayor is providing it. He's trying to find a way to get everybody. And I just heard this morning that anyone could go get tested now. And that's a great thing if that's could really take place, where people don't have to wait so long to do this, because once you start finding out that folks having it in different units, we done lost some loved ones to this virus. It's not a joke no more, and it's for real.
I have just one other question. You gave us a very nice history of the beginning of the task force and how it all started back in 2005. And at one level, it doesn't sound like too long ago, but a lot has happened in the last 15 years. And then, as you mentioned a couple of times, we're experiencing something that no one has seen before and that we need to think about being prepared for. Have you started to have you, or can you start to give some thought to how the task force may evolve itself, may continue to grow and evolve in order to address some of the needs that are changing over time?
I think if we just continue to work together, you count on us, we count on you guys to work together. This Watch Game Task Force is a model to be done in every community, because this task force is all about relationship. This task force is about building relationship, grants. If you could help us go after grants and things like one thing, if you ask anybody about this Watch Game Task Force, for all the years that we exist, we never received $1. We never asked no one for $1. But now is the time that this task force is in position. People listen to us. We have needs even more for this Watch Game Task Force to grow a little bit more. But with the relationship with you guys and law enforcement, you could count on us for anything. we just need resources, to help do the things that we need to do in our community. And so with y'all help, you will help us grow.
Well, I appreciate that. I would encourage you to continue to give some thought along those lines as to whether it's grants or other things you think would be helpful to continue to have the level of impact that you've had the last 15 years, and think about how we can get prepared for having that same or greater impact going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I understand the captain is also in the room. If we could have him come and take a seat, Donnie.
Yes.
If you can answer also a few questions about the relationship in the community. And Commissioner,
Okay.
if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioner. It's
Uh,
Captain Paleolonga, PAGS.
Good morning, Captain. Thank you also for hosting members of the Watts Gang Task Force this morning so that we could have them present this morning. We greatly appreciate it. A few things come to mind, and first of all, if you'd like to add anything to what was just presented, we welcome hearing that. But I was a little concerned about the testing issue and getting information about testing out to members of the community. It was just relayed to us that there does not seem to be a lot of information in the community, or there's some concern about different members of the community knowing where to go to get testing, how to get it, and if there are any qualifications. So I wonder if you could address that as well in your remarks.
Yes, and I apologize, this is very awkward. We're all in this new era together. So to address your questions, there are two areas where there are testing sites in Watts. One's at the Watts Health Center, and the other one's at King Drew Medical Center. So the largest test center in South LA, as you may know, is at the Crenshaw Christian Center. And as it relates to information, it is definitely an ongoing, moving target that we are continuing to address. My CSP team, I am so proud of them. The amount of foot beats that they do during the day, the flyers that they have handed out. We've handed out literally thousands of flyers that talk about the COVID-19 virus, the threats to the community, the rates of transmission, and most importantly, in Watts area is how it affects the African-American community even more than everyone else disproportionately. And that is information that is so important for everyone to know. As Mr. Jobert pointed out, there have been a couple of people in the community that have passed away from COVID-19. Nevertheless, we have still seen some pop-up repasses and funerals where even though people clearly know someone died from the disease, they are gathering and not practicing social distance. So my officers are very engaged in this practice of education and advisement, and I think we've made a lot of progress. We have it won't stop until it stops. We're going to be on it all the time, ma'am. That is definitely a mandate on the daily basis that the CSP officers are doing. As you know, many of our programs have been forced to cease, particularly our youth programming like the Watts Rams and the Knicks Kids, and we're using that extra time to do just exactly what we're talking about, and that's footbeat and positive visible engagement and partnership. One thing to say about the Rams, to kind of close the loop on that, I'm so proud of this. The LA Rams are so good they're such great partners with us. They have been all across the board, and I know that Chief Moore knows that. But they've offered a remarkable gift just recently that we're going to try to put into play this week, where they are offering all of our players tablets so that we can do these Zoom conferences with them. My coaches go out, even though we can't practice and meet, they do meet with the families, they stay connected with the kids, but having that ability for them to participate in something like this it's only going to make things better. We connect, they feel good about it, they're learning a great technical skill that myself or just now learning as a 55-year-old man, barely learning how to do this. So it's, it's turning a negative thing into a positive thing. And I'm very proud and very thankful of the LA Rams.
Thank you, Captain. Other questions from commissioners of the captain?
Yes. Morning, Captain. Had a couple of questions for you. One was that Donnie had mentioned a couple of times the importance of continuity in the program, and we certainly see a lot of transfers and promotions, retirements, things of that nature. Can you comment just really on the nature and level of continuity that you're seeing with those who are engaging with not only the task force but the community in general?
Yes, sir. And when the program started several years ago and we had our initial group of officers that came into the program, they have pretty much all since either promoted or transferred. That's the way of the LAPD. And so there was a time where all of the stakeholders and initial partners were all going their ways, and that's very concerning. But in the last year and a half, couple of years, really, it's stabilized. Of course, we still do have promotions, which I'm very proud of, and transfers. We just had a key member of our team who was selected to Air Support Division, which has got to be one of the most coveted spots in the city. And so we'll replace him on onesies and twosies as they go. But by and large, my supervision, my OIC, the amazing Lieutenant Gina Brooks, they've remained in place and are there. I think that, again, as I pointed out, there always is good that comes of bad. And the bad of not being able to see each other, I think it's been overshadowed by the good of the way that we're being creatively connecting with each other through forums like this, through telephone calls, through door knocks. Everyone is going out of their way to stay connected and to have that continuity that you speak of, sir.
A couple others. One is with regard to just stay at home generally. I made a brief trip out of the house yesterday for some groceries and things of that nature, and was somewhat surprised by the level of traffic and people who were really out, whatever they were doing. I mean, I was among them doing what I felt was essential. But can you comment really on what you're seeing in terms of just numbers of people on the street and the level of compliance in communities generally?
So, Commissioner, you are spot on. As I drive through my area, it's remarkable as compared to other parts of the city. It seems at times to be business as usual with foot traffic and ped traffic. Some of that, of course, is increased because the kids are not in school. The biggest issues that we have had have been the housing developments, and that was predicted just because you have a large amount of people that live right there and they in essence are staying at home. That's their backyard, so that's a difficult target. But other than that, there just seems to be a lot of traffic. Now, we don't have very many stores that are non-compliant. We're working very closely with Community Engagement Group, as is other parts of the city, to identify and to educate and notify businesses to shut down, and we've overwhelmingly had great compliance on that. My narcotics enforcement team has not missed a beat in terms of conducting cannabis enforcement. Just yesterday, they did a very good warrant in this time where, many people should not be operating, and that was an illegal cannabis location that once again we hit, and we'll continue to do those things. So I do share your concerns, and as does the entire command, and they are working on it. We talk about this at roll calls every single day, all facets of the command, from gangs to patrol to CSP to even detectives. We always go out of our way to make a point to remind people of the mayor's safe at home order and the benefits to their family. We share our own personal stories, how we have our own officers that are affected by this, so no one is off limits to this. And although some people may feel invincible, they may feel that they're immune to this because of a tough environment that they grow up in. Perhaps their families and their grandmother and their children, they have to think of them. And overwhelmingly, when we have these conversations with people, they do positively respond, and we have had very few issues with my officers being challenged for having these discussions with people.
Thank you. Now, you obviously have a fair amount of eyes and ears in the community as well, who are in a position to observe what I was just asking about, namely, are there issues with people who are just out and about and so on? Is there anyone else in the city or county system that's asking you that same question? In other words, seems to me that you have an opportunity to gather a fair amount of real-time information that could be of use to those who are trying to understand the level of compliance and so on. Is anyone outside the department asking the same question?
Yes, sir. Most notably, our relationship with our council district. So we talk to council district 15, 8, and 9 on a daily basis, and we talk about these issues, and we work together as a team. Very, very lucky to have the field deputies that we have working with us. We have a great working relationship. Another entity that's been really instrumental is GRID. So unfortunately, we have, just because of this pandemic, you think that there would be no gang shootings and no further activity, but unfortunately there has been. And there have been gatherings, and GRID has been very important partner. But as for state and other governmental agencies querying me, no. We do also, though, have a weekly community meeting where I hold a teleconference, and at that time, different people log on to that from either the mayor's office, the state assembly, that sort of representatives, and we discuss these issues. But to your question, no one is directly asking me for like counts or my opinion.
Okay, just two others, if I might. One, you referenced, and I know we've heard a number of reports also about crime being down during the pandemic, but clearly it's not at zero. And as you just mentioned, there continues to be some gang activity. Can you kind of characterize really the nature of gang activity you're seeing during the pandemic?
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, because as an area commanding officer, on the daily, I rely on the Watts Gang Task Force for partnership, guidance, assistance, and just teamwork. And the things that we have done working together and mostly the community, mostly this Watts Gang Task Force, I couldn't quantify the amount of lives that they've saved that otherwise wouldn't be because of their partnership and them going out and helping us with intervention. That on top of GRID. So on any day, that's so important. But during this COVID-19 era, it's invaluable to me to have this partnership and this communication to get out in front of any emerging gang issues. I am very, very proud of the efforts of my officers and the community to address crime. And as you mentioned, although it is not zero, we are down as a division in homicides. We're greatly down in shootings, incidents, and shootings with hits. Our aggravated assaults are up a bit, a couple of percent. But the really remarkable part of this, especially as we're here to talk about the Watts Gang Task Force, is that Watts area is really leading the way. They are down in violent crime across the board in double digits. And you know, when you mentioned or someone mentioned like, well, let's talk about 10, 15 years ago, when I looked at the crime in 2015, it was significantly higher in that violent crime category than it is today. And I have to attribute that to this Watts Gang Task Force, the partnership and the new way with community safety partnership policing and the effects that that's had.
Thank you very much. One last same question I asked Donnie as well. Are you, during this rather unprecedented time, taking time out also to reflect on how the task force itself or the department's relationship with the task force may evolve or may need to evolve going forward to either take advantage of some positive things that have been identified and can be broadened, or to make corrections, or just to deal with future realities? But what kind of reflecting are you doing on just the structure and process of the relationship with the task force?
So that's a great question, and it is something that we do really all the time. So when we have our Watts Gang Task Force meetings, and where the whole community comes in. The board and the police, we always collaborate based on the input we get from the community at large, how we can do it better, how not only law enforcement can do it better or the board can do it better, but we can do it better as a group. And we've made many evolutions just in the 3.5 years that I've been the captain here at Southeast for the better to address community needs, whether that is to reach out to people that feel that they're not represented or reach out to just different groups. One of the things that we have done very well, and I'm proud of, is this relationship with Children's Institute, Miss Riddle here next to me, and her team, along with the city attorney's office, to have our Children Exposed to Gun Violence team, which pioneered in Watts. So many things start in Watts as a pilot and then get pushed out to the rest of the either division or city. And that's one of them that, through the successes of that program, it has expanded to the rest of Southeast in other parts of the city. Another thing that was earlier commented on is what kind of things is this task force doing and the police department doing to perhaps reach out to kids and offer diversion opportunities. We're working closely with CII and supporting them greatly in creating a new juvenile arrest diversion program through CII. They are seeking a grant now. We're very hopeful they will receive it, and they have my full support in doing so. And the niche of this, although we already have another service contractor, Centinela Youth Services, identified, there are some children that won't qualify for the program for different reasons. And what we are trying to do is make sure that no one is left behind on that, and offer, especially our kids in Watts, an ability to have those same things, even though they might not have qualified for the Centinela program. All of that with the aim of avoiding a booking number, avoiding like institutionalism, and avoiding shutting doors down, whether that's a college scholarship or a job due to a juvenile arrest record. And in that regard, that's a huge way that the Watts Gang Task Force and law enforcement have looked at each other and pivoted to try to hit something that was not struck before.
Thank you. You just reminded me as well when you mentioned diversion. I had asked this before as well. Is there any reason why the department, maybe you are already, but if you're not, is there any reason why you can't take a look at adult diversion programs as well? So I'm thinking again about the fact that the government has gone to great lengths to try to soften those rough edges that people deal with every day, from parking tickets to notices to vacate their property and things of that nature. And it just seems to me that there's a number of the 18 to 25-year-old crowd as well, probably, who don't have existing records or prior interactions with law enforcement, who could benefit from the same or similar types of diversion efforts as well. Is there any discussion of that? Maybe it's already underway, but if you can comment on either whether it is or why that would not be the case.
Well, sir, we have actually a couple of years ago, as a bureau, started the LA DOOR program, which is a narcotics diversion program, which hits the point that you just spoke of. It is completely aimed at adults, and it is on low-level narcotics offenses, and it really does recognize what you had pointed out, that a booking number in jail is not going to serve someone to beat an addiction or get back on their feet or get housing. And that program also, it does, as I mentioned, it's a kind of a wraparound program. Initially, some of the wraparound resources weren't there as designed, but it's caught up, where a person entering the program will also be able to get housing and job counseling and that sort of thing. But as a division, we it's often said in the LAPD that you can't arrest your way out of this. That's like a saying that that resonates with me, particularly in an era of zero bail and property crime issues. That if we're really going to make a difference in this, as you point out, I think we have to get to the root of the problem instead of just putting multiple booking numbers on people and expecting it to solve itself. It won't. So we always look at that social piece of it as well. And here in Southeast, I do believe that many, as I mentioned before, many programs and many trials start here for a reason, and much of it is the heart of the officers and their willingness and their love of this community to make it better for the future. That 18 to 25 target, as you mentioned, is definitely something that we are focused on. Listen, I'm not saying it's easy, but when you're dealing with like little kids, whether it's like a soccer team or a tutoring group, well, quite frankly, that is kind of easy, right? They're lovable. Everyone feels good about it. They love the police. But the harder one is the 18 to 25-year-old that might be a little skeptical, might be a little distrusting of the police, might not feel it's fully transparent, and reaching out to them through the programs that we have been doing, particularly in Watts, has been beneficial. We have a welding program, we have a trade program, we have all these programs set up that CSP facilitates. And I can go on and on about this, but to your point, it's not just the kids in avoiding booking numbers, it is those young adults. They represent our victims, and they also unfortunately represent our largest pool of suspects as well, that age range that you point out.
Thank you. I just, in closing, just to say to you and also to the chief that this is a topic I'd like to explore a little further. I'm thinking also, in the context of not only getting through the pandemic, but certainly as we try to get everybody through a recession that is clearly, setting in. And when I say we, I'm talking the collective we, the just society, the city, others, not necessarily the department, but there is a major challenge to get as many people, get and keep as many people into the economy, back into the economy as possible as productive citizens and workers. So again, the idea that someone who's in that 18 to 25 or other groups who may be struggling to get out of this area and then get trapped in the system because of some relatively minor infraction, I think is just a tragedy that we all should be looking for ways to avoid if possible. So I just mentioned that it's something that I'd like to explore further. Not that the responsibility starts and stops at the department, but you obviously have a seat at the table or should have a seat at the table in that conversation.
Thank you very much, sir. I agree with you 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bonner. Well said. Members of the public, you're reminded that we'll be closing the public comment submission shortly. But I do want to just be sure if others have questions or comments. Commissioner Silveroff, did you want to make any comments, sir? No. Chief, did you want to add anything before we move to public comment, sir?
Yes, commissioners, thank you very much. First of all, to Donnie, I want to extend my condolences to him on the loss that he referenced of a family associate or friend. This is a tragedy as this pandemic unfolds across this region that is impacting us on different levels. And Donnie, also, we owe you a great debt of gratitude for your investment in continued investment and dedication, sacrifice for the Watts Gang Task Force, but for the Watts community. Our work together with my predecessor, Chief Beck, Chief Bratton before that, you have been a stalwart of just a consistent both advocate as well as challenger for the police department to work more effectively as truly a partner in safety